Cool. So thanks again, everyone for coming and attending this conference. It's been like 2 years since we've had a conference, and always brings very fond memories of meeting people face to face. So I'm going to talk today about. Uh, the way we have organized this conference is day one is going to be mostly tech-related talks, more about Frappe framework and developing on ERP next. And day two, we're going to talk about business more. And so just to set the stage for the tech related talks, I think I can put in, you know, talk about Frappe framework, which is our core platform and how we can take it forward. So welcome back everybody. This is a picture from our usual conferences, those who haven't attended. It's usually a lot of fun, a lot of nervous energy meeting people in a room. And I'm just trying to imagine standing on that stage once again and how it feels great. I mean, feels very nervous. So I'm already feeling nervous now. And remote, I don't think remote can ever replace like a face-to-face conversation. And the reason is that the conversation doesn't flow as quickly. You can't capture expressions, you can't capture body language, and so many other things. And you're always hesitant when to speak because you don't know the exact state of the person on the other side, right? And if you're speaking, right, you don't know whether your talk is actually making sense. So I mean, it was always good to get feedback from an audience when you're speaking, and I think we are all living through these times. So this is our attempt. Just some going back, just wanted to share some pictures of our real conferences, right? I think this is the second one where we had Jordan Hubbard coming from the US. He's the co-creator of FreeBSD, and gave a great talk on monetizing open source. And he started with the slide that, how do you monetize open source? Well, you can't. I think we're still on that journey. And then we had these wonderful dinners post conference where the talks used to continue, and it used to be so much fun getting into very deep discussions with all of you. And I often recall these discussions every time we face a situation, or I've talked to this problem with so and so person. I've talked to this problem. So, I mean, always remember those rather than I've chatted this with somebody, right? I mean, these discussions are really add a lot of value to the conference. Right? I'm pretty sure, like maybe early next year, we might actually do a face-to-face version too. And yeah, I mean, it's a great point, a great place to meet community. And I understand Frappe and the community, we have been frenemies here because we kind of compete for the same business at some point. And I don't think, and we've addressed these issues face to face, right? Like who bears the cost of the commons, right? Who bears the commons, and then does Frappe get an unnatural advantage being the OEM and being the owner of the trademark? Right? These are all very contentious issues, and how do people make money from open source? And we have had great discussions with the community too. Want to quickly share what we have been up to in the past couple of years. Frappe has grown. As you can see, we are close to 100 people now. It's been a very organic growth for us. We have, the more and more we grow, the more time we spend with customers, we realize that the right market for Frappe is to address higher value customers, because Frappe as an organization with the overheads and with the investments that we do is very hard for us to actually support organizations, support small companies, because we already have fixed costs that we need to pay. And so it's been a journey. We are going into higher and higher end of customers, and we are learning new things. We are learning, and we are still not there very much. We are not at a point where we can be a hyper growth company yet. I don't know when will that point be, but I mean the journey has been fulfilling. We've learned a lot of new things through the last couple of years too. Our engineers have been working really hard. These are the guys who really make the magic happen, day and night. At any point, 24/7, somebody is always available in Frappe to solve any problem. And And these are all self-motivated guys. Day and night they really work very hard. We also have a significant bunch of non-engineers, and they also work very hard in a different way. And they are the ones who actually make conferences like these happen. So this is bringing about a really interesting change of culture in Frappe, having like large number of non-engineers being part of the team. And it's a lot of fun, fighting and politicking with everybody. We've also been working hard in terms of the number of commits. I mean, if you just see the rate of growth of how fast we have been pushing to the product, it's growing every year. We've been pushing commits consistently for a period of 10 years. Even the community engagement is very consistent, and very it's slowly growing. I think I often hear from people that these days they don't need to ask a lot of questions about ERP-Next because they always find the answer by doing a simple Google search. And the documentation, both ERP-Next and Frappe Framework, have reached a point where we don't get so much criticism for not having good documentation. So I think this also helps in keeping everybody on the same page. And it's not only the software, but also the knowledge that needs to be shared. So I think both these areas we've been doing consistent work and growing quite well, I feel. And we recently hit 10,000 stars on GitHub. It's been a really long journey. We've been on GitHub since 2011, and as you can see, we spent many years in the bottom, always aspiring for this number of 10,000. It's always been like a dream to achieve this number. Maybe it's aided by the growth of GitHub itself, but it still feels good. It's a vanity metric, we understand, but still feels good to be slowly recognized as a significant product out there. So yeah, just want to set off with my talk. I mean, I want to talk really about Frappe Framework, and ERP-Next is essentially built on Frappe, which is the core strength. And over the years, I think some of the decisions we made to build our own web framework and then use metadata modeling very deeply has been paying us off over the years. I mean, first, it allowed us to build like a really large feature set with a very small number of engineers, and now we see that this helps in customization, abstracting customizations for multiple customers, for customers to really adapt the system to exactly what they want. And this is the kind of architecture we are converging on at this point. Last year we launched Frappe Cloud, which finally we realized that we lose a lot of customers, or there is a huge potential to address customers who come at the $10 per month entry. They don't care about the number of users. So Frappe Cloud actually does that. I think it's a fantastic product. I love using Frappe Cloud myself. And though we've spent like close to 2.5 years building this product now, and I feel this product is really going to be the foundation of all our future growth, in a way. And I would invite everybody to check out Frappe Cloud if you already haven't. Frappe Framework, which is the core technology piece in this puzzle, is growing quite well. I mean, version 13, you've seen the fantastic new UI. Suraj is going to talk about later, and amazing stuff that's coming in Frappe Framework. I won't talk much about that because we're going to spend the whole day talking about it. And then we have this whole layer of applications on Frappe Framework. This is something in the early years we were very against doing apps because of various reasons. I mean, we've discussed these before, like bad user experience, 1,000 apps, which one do I use? Conflicting apps choosing not to upgrade. And I think that was also a reflection of a very small team size that we had, maybe a handful of developers, like 5, 6, 7 developers working on ERP-Next, and we couldn't like run 15 different apps anyway. So, but now we have more engineers. We have like close to 40 engineers, and I think this is the right time to really address the domains, and Naveen is going to talk more about this tomorrow. And then we have the services layer finally on the top, which is consulting, where we can bring in consulting and training as our core capabilities. We would like to remain only in high-end consulting. We don't anticipate doing a very large amount of consulting. We really want the partners to really come in here and do the consulting. I would still say in an ERP implementation, the software is probably only a quarter of your problem. Like 75% of the problem is really implementation, and getting a customer to change their way of working to adopt to an ERP system is extremely hard. I don't think Frappe has the capacity to do it for thousands of customers. The opportunity in the consulting side is also huge. So coming back to the motivation of my talk, and what this is something what we have been realizing through the years is what ails software engineering today. Today, software is like a field which is growing like in multitudes, right? I mean, it's the highest, it's the gold rush of our times. Software salaries are through the roof. Software technologies are proliferating everywhere, and the number of technologies that created every month is insane. If you ever try to catch up with what's happening in software, you'll go crazy. So the first thing is, I think there is a lot of focus on speed, and speed brings incrementalism. Everybody's doing like a very small piece of the puzzle, all through the stack. You have, right from the business workflows, you have products that only do, for example, OKRs, right? And they got acquired for like a very big sum recently. And then you have, all through the stack, you have products that solve a very, very small piece of puzzle. And what software engineers essentially do is stitch all these pieces together, right? I mean, this is what the work is. I mean, nobody's really envisioning an entire product. And this is what I think we have done at Frappe, whether we like it or not. I mean, this has been our way of working, that we have tried to imagine the whole product and build it together rather than just doing small incremental. And I think what people end up doing is they do shipbuilding in engineering, right? I mean, if you want to go from point A to point B, you could build a speedboat or a sailboat, but people end up building ships because Google and Facebook essentially build ships, like software that runs for millions of users. And most software doesn't need to be that, unfortunately. And that is, but the whole field of software engineering is dominated by these shipbuilders, and the kind of tools that are proliferating, right, from microservices to cloud to Kubernetes, to React. I mean, these are all shipbuilding tools, right, which most of us don't need. And even when you look at the whole software development life cycle, as an engineer, like how many steps do you need to actually fix a bug, right? So when you encounter a bug, you first try to replicate it in your browser. You may get a trace. You go to your console, you try and fix some code, find where the code is. Again verify it, and write a test, run the test. Then you go into the whole uh, version control workflow where you commit and you push a fix. You raise a pull request, and then there is a code review, then there's a QA review, then it merges, and there's a release, and then there's a deploy, right? And then finally you go and close the issue. So while we feel, how hard is it to fix a bug, it's really hard. This thing, like 80-90% of what a software engineer does is essentially bureaucracy, right? I mean, fixing a bug is a really easy problem, but making sure that it's part of a product is a very hard problem, right? And this is in Frappe, I think we are way better than what other organizations do, and this is why we have been able to build such a product. But I mean, if you look at like what typically engineers do, right, it's mostly tooling, right? They're not really doing stuff to help the end user. So my broad, like the visionary picture is, let's end this, right? Let's end this nonsense. Let's build software once, and try and use it as much as we can. Let's build a very standard stack of products, and that vision has already been put forth by the Xerox Spark team. If you are into computer history, right? I mean, they are the ones who created the graphical user interface, object-oriented programming, and networking, right? All at the same time. And then we're still catching up to this concept of object-oriented. And this is what is really a differentiator for the way Frappe works compared to like other software shops, right? And the key thing in object-oriented is this concept of encapsulation, which means that in a like when you define, when you say what is a shirt, right? It's just a piece of cloth, worn in the upper part of the body, right? So if I say I'm wearing a red shirt, I don't say I'm wearing like a red piece of cloth made for the upper part of the body. I'm saying I'm wearing a red shirt, right? So we encapsulate the meaning of certain complex objects into one word. That is essentially what we do at Frappe Framework. And then when you look at how we understand the world, I mean, it is also using these kind of schemas. I mean, if you see the English language, which is the world's largest collection, is there are close to 1 million words. Again, these are some estimates I found online, out of which 170,000 are in some sense actively used, and then an average person has a vocabulary of 30,000 words. And then when you compare this to the kind of doc types we have in ERP Nexus, we already have 1300 doc types, which is way more than the schemas published on schema.org. So schema.org is a industry-wide collaborative effort to publish a common schema for things like orders, items, invoices. I mean, we already have more doc types in that in ERP Nexus. And even Frappe framework itself has 300 doc types. So the cool thing about Frappe is a lot of what engineers do is also using doc types. Like while we use doc types to talk about customers, invoices, end user objects, real world objects, even the software engineering objects are also doc types. And these are distributed into various parts, like we have the desk, email, printing, website, CMS, workflows, automations. These are all done using doc types because when you wrap an object as a doc type, you know how to work with it. You know where to store it. You know how to retrieve it. You know how to execute it. So many things are already figured out. And this is an innovative thing that we have done, which is just beyond ERP Next. And what I feel is that this is the journey which is still incomplete. I mean, we need to complete this entire journey for the software engineer. And everything must become a doc type or a Frappe object. Whatever is not a Frappe object already. Starting from primitives like data types like integers, numbers, these are all should become doc types. So tomorrow you just want to publish a new data type, you say, this is my new data type. I create a doc type. It's automatically accessible to all, your entire application. Right? All API endpoints. Currently, we have a way to publish API endpoints via server scripts, but I mean, all API endpoints should essentially become doc types because all our CRUD operations are already driven through doc types. Maybe even the non-CRUD ones could be. All our events, which we write in code, which become very rigid, could also become doc types. Again, there are ways to override events through server scripts, client scripts. Taking it really to the next level here. UI components. This is a big one. All our views, desk views like list views, assignments, attachments, comments, everything should become just doc types. Then you can really create a composable plug and play UI by using some kind of an object-oriented structure. You can compose like full UI elements out of the box. And then all messages, internal messages, like error messages, all of this could also become doc types. Then every company, every customer can then customize the way they want to show their error messages based on their context. And going deeper into the engineering workflow, the way we do migrations and patches could also become doc types. So if you have a failing patches, you could just go to a UI and say, okay, this is a skip this patch, or push a temporary fix to this patch, and then continue doing the whole migration process. Right? And you don't have to go to the command line to do migrations. And release and deployment. So if you are an engineer, you have made a fix in the code, from the UI, you could go and directly contribute from that UI to the core, and even that whole release deployment workflow can also be driven to doc types. And the 16 steps I showed for an engineer is really very hard to get engineering productivity. When you have so many steps to do to solve a simple fix. And imagine you could just identify a fix, solve a fix, maybe through the UI, add a test, quick test, run the test from the UI, push it from the UI. I mean, you're just done. Like you're not switching context between text editors, command lines, GitHub UIs, other places. Right? I mean, yeah, and that's the goal. We want ERP Next developers to be really peaceful and enjoy, have peace of mind. And just to leave you with this final quote from Ursula Le Guin, one of the famous science fiction writers, is so if you've read The Wizards of Earthsea, the concept of magic in the Wizards of Earthsea is that if you want to really control an object or you want to perform magic on something, you must know its true name. Right? And then we talk about emotions, right? And if you want to really learn to control your emotions, you should learn to name them. So when you name something, you get control over it. And this is a really beautiful quote that, to change the rock into a jewel, you must change its true name. That's how you change the world. Yeah. So thanks. This again leaving you with this final overview of the Frappe architecture. Yeah, that's my talk. I hope I did not go over time.
No, you're exactly on time. Thank you, Rishabh, for enlightening us with your talk and laying out the vision for Frappe Stack. The participants can now start sending in questions in the chat box given below, and Rishabh will try to answer them.
There are a few questions in the chat.
Venice. If there is any,
I can take a few quick questions for a few minutes. I think Venice Frappe School is launching. There is a talk on that. You should wait for that talk. What do you mean by shipbuilders? Essentially, when your goal is to travel from like point A to point B, you shouldn't be needing to build an entire ship. I mean, like most of your time shouldn't go in building ships. I mean, your goal is to really go from point A to point B. Right? That was the analogy that I was trying to build in. What software engineers end up doing is they end up building these ships, which and not really solving the core problem, which is helping the user to go from point A to point B. Yeah, I'm seeing Frappe School is like a really interesting topic. I don't know if Basavaraj is here, but he's going to be there to answer all your questions tomorrow.
So a talk on Frappe School has also been decided, and it will be on the day 2, that is tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just glad people are already asking about it.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of questions on Frappe Cloud talk coming up next. Aditya is going to be here talking about Frappe Cloud very soon.
So shall we move on?
Yeah, maybe we can move on if there are any questions. I'm going to be around. We have a Telegram group that I've created as an experiment. I can again drop in the link. So if you want to have like an offline chat on stuff, we could have it on the TG group. The group is right here. It's called Linux Conf 21. If anybody can.
Yeah, please do drop the Telegram link. Thanks.
Yeah, it's shared. Okay. Thank you, Rishabh.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to be around the TG group, and thanks again, everyone. All the best. Bye.